Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, and it is good to be back. Now, for a lot of you, I've been here the whole time, but for me, I've been on a holiday break for 3 weeks, so it's my first time in the office for 2023. I'm really excited for everything this year has to offer. There are so many exciting opportunities around the corner, and especially when it comes to the video games, my word, do they look incredible this year. We could truly be in for a legendary year of video games. So may 2023 be our best year yet, and best wishes to all of you. With that, let's talk about Xbox, because while I was on holiday break, I guess the rumor mill decided to really churn. Today, we're going to talk about Starfield, Redfall, Fable, Hellblade 2, and yes, even a little bit of Deathloop. There have been so many rumors in the realm of Xbox in these last couple of weeks. I wanted to round them all up because I missed covering all of them throughout the weeks I was gone and talk about them here with you, because finally it feels like this is the year Xbox is going to deliver, because quite frankly, the dam's about to burst, and these games have been in the pipeline for so long that, ready or not, here they come is my philosophy for them. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are new here, you're into Xbox news and information, consider subscribing. Welcome aboard. And especially these rumors are worth paying attention to, given another rumor that was pretty much hinted at by an Xbox official employee, being Aaron Greenberg, that there may be a showcase of some kind in the early part of 2023. And if that's the case, then again, these rumors are a little bit more tantalizing. Now, where I want to begin is somewhere a bit more official with Starfield, because y'all are like me and we're crazy for Starfield, and any little bit of Starfield info we're all over. So feast on this one. The official support page for Starfield is live on Bethesda's own website. This went live at the start of the new year. You may look at this, raise an eyebrow, and go, my God, he is fishing for news. This is really bad and embarrassing. No, because here's what's important. When you go to the release date section for Starfield, it writes, Starfield arrives exclusively on Xbox Series X and S and PC in the first half of 2023. Again, you may look at that and say, well, Matty, that's a known quantity. The reason this is important is because my community and I have entertained the conversation multiple times that there could be another delay for Starfield. And I always felt like we should be open to that possible reality. And this isn't to say it writes that reality off the script and that it's never going to happen. However, when we see an official channel double down on the release window closer to when that possible release date could be, because now there's only a handful of months left in the first half of 2023, like we're really, time's ticking right now. So with that window dwindling, you'd think that maybe here on the official page they would just say 2023, but they're doubling down. They're saying the first half, and given all the conversations we had about a possible delay, how it is Xbox's most important exclusive, how they need to get it right, it is interesting to see that they have officially said still the first half of 2023. Now, could this be old info internally? It hasn't made it down the pipeline. I don't know. We don't know the inner workings of Bethesda or Xbox and how those communication departments work, but I digress. Seeing that can be a little bit more affirming that you can expect Starfield in the first half of 2023. But the reason this information is also relevant is because of the release date rumor for Redfall. And where it's landing, you'd imagine you want to keep Starfield and Redfall pretty spread out. At least I'd say so. But where Redfall lands and where we're expecting Starfield, they may be right on top of each other. So let's continue on to the Redfall rumor, and then we can connect it back to the Starfield conversation. So this rumor began with Okami13, who put on his personal Twitter account, update on Redfall's release date. I have heard that it's been pushed back internally by about 6 weeks, which means that originally it was targeting late March or sometime in April. It's currently targeting an early May release. Now, afterwards, Jez Corden did some digging of his own. He writes in a Windows Central article, our own sourcing corroborated those reports this past week, with Microsoft's internal targets focusing on early May for the game's launch, complete with some form of early access period similar in vein to Forza Horizon 5. Forza Horizon 5 sported a premium edition, which granted a few days of early access to the game, and if things go to plan, Redfall will be getting the same treatment. I don't think many of us expected Redfall to be coming out this late. I was putting it somewhere in like February, March. I thought it would be very close by. To know it may be the furthest out is crazy. Why is that? Because many of us expected that Starfield would come out after Redfall. Why is that? Because Starfield is going to dominate the conversation. I say that with all due respect, but it's not an Arcane problem. It's not a Redfall problem. It's just Bethesda Game Studios' new IP. A lot of people curious about it. A huge blockbuster Xbox IP. We really don't hear much about that. It's just the stars aligning. It is going to be a conversation dominance by Xbox. And because of that, you want to let the other games breathe for some time. And you don't want to push Redfall back another 2-3 months just because Starfield's going to be relevant. So now you're putting Starfield possibly at the latest a month after Redfall, if that was to be expected, that Starfield had to come out after Redfall. But here's the reality, and I had to check myself when I saw this rumor, is this is us projecting our expectations, and me in particular. My expectation is it makes sense to not wipe out Redfall so immediately and bring everyone to Starfield, because we kind of had to learn that lesson with what we saw with Forza Horizon 5. Funny enough, that's relevant to the conversation. We'll talk about that early access in a moment. And Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite wiped Forza Horizon 5's conversation off the grid. And even though the game continued to succeed, I will always sit there and wonder, what if they delayed Halo till March and let Forza Horizon 5 just dominate the way it was? I mean, that game was the talk of the town because of the player count, because of the quality. Xbox really had one there. And immediately they traded it all out for early access multiplayer for Halo Infinite, then the game launching in December, and not much conversation was had about Forza Horizon 5. I could see the same thing happening if it were to be Redfall in May, and then Starfield in June. But, again, this goes back to me checking myself. Who says Starfield has to come out afterwards? This is something that myself and many others have just sort of projected as what the reality should be, but what if Starfield were to come out in March? Again, if Bethesda has locked down, according to that support page, a first half release, who's to say? So I look at Starfield, a game of that scale, right? And then I look at its original release window, which was November. And let's say it were to have come out in March. You're telling me the game only needed an extra 4 months? I don't know, man. It just doesn't sound right. So I feel like given the scope of the game and the testing that would need to occur, it needs the maximum amount of time. So I feel like we are lining up for a bit of a May, June level action here. And if so, I mean, I know eventually you got to get Redfall out, but I just feel like it's a mistake putting these two so close together, because what Xbox needs to do, now obviously these games need to be ready when they're ready, but what they ideally should do is really spread the wealth, right? Like something early on in the year, in the first 3 months, something in the next 3 months, right? Every quarter, like Xbox said. But still, it looks like we're getting two in close proximity to each other if our speculation and reports here are to be true. Now, as for the early access period here with Redfall, you know, it's something that we predicted over on Defining Duke, because we got questions about it when Forza Horizon 5 came out. And they were like, hey, Matty, Cog, do you guys think this is going to be something that we see with other Xbox games? And my answer was, yeah, absolutely. I think they're going to go for it, because we saw how many people paid for it when it came to Forza Horizon 5, and that's obviously a proven franchise, but many people are hungry for content when it comes to Xbox, and I think they'll happily pay for that. How do I feel about it? Not really crazy about it. You know, we're talking about a platform holder doing early access. I don't know. It just drop the game. If it's ready 3 days earlier, 4 days earlier, 5 days earlier, whatever the early access period is, just release it then, is my philosophy. Just release it then. And then, you know, go ahead and add in post-launch content. Keep Redfall alive for years instead. Call me a traditionalist. I understand we need a million editions nowadays, but Redfall, you know, all these other multiplayer games, are they going to do the same for Contraband? There's so many multiplayer games in the pipeline for Xbox, and if this becomes a thing, it will become a bigger conversation. I don't want to overreact now, but those are just my general thoughts on it. Now let's talk about Fable. So there is a now deleted tweet that claimed Fable would be getting an engine swap and that a lot of the game was deemed unplayable. Now, this to me reeked of absolute BS the moment I saw it, because I don't understand how we could have had such a recent interview with Matt Booty saying, every time I see Fable, I get so excited about what the team's working on, even though he had every single other Xbox exclusive to pick from about being excited for in the future, and how they ask every time if Playground Games is ready to reveal it, can we reveal it? Why would it be this busted that it's literally unplayable? I find it hard to imagine that the people at Xbox are that oblivious. So when this rumor really got legs, I didn't pay attention to it. But because it got so much traction, because this is the product of what happened with Starfield as well, when you don't hear anything for a while, any rumor becomes plausible to any audience. And it took Jez Corden and Christopher Jing of respectively Windows Central and GamesIndustry.biz to debunk this rumor, saying that it's been hard confirmed that this is not true. With that said, when are we going to see Fable? I feel like this summer showcase would make a lot of sense if it's going to come out in that next year. Now, I feel like Fable to me is possibly a fall 2024 game. If I were a betting man, that's just the one I want to throw at the calendar, even though I think on my fantasy draft for Defining Duke, I definitely put it way earlier. But if I were to be less facetious, I would say that this one's coming a bit later. And if it were to come in the next year and a half or so, I mean, that would be a wild stretch for Xbox, because you got to imagine that Avowed is likely coming up in the pipeline too. So you're going to have a lot of fantasy RPGs to play around with as well. And that's extremely exciting too. But when it comes to Fable, I think, take your time, right? They already have Forza. It's doing well. We're talking about a racing team that's hiring RPG talent and establishing new technology to make this into an open world RPG. Let them cook. Just let them work the stove a little bit. Let them cook, all right? And in the meantime, we got plenty of other stuff on the way. And I'm hoping that's what happens with Xbox, is as they start to deliver, we'll obviously always anticipate these games, but it won't be the constant pestering and nagging that we've become known for. With that, we move on to Hellblade 2, where they posted on their official Twitter account, "Dev diaries are back in the new year. Merry Christmas." So this is something Ninja Theory has done for a while, and I imagine it'll give us a good look at where Hellblade 2 is in its progress for development. A lot of people are expecting Hellblade in 2023. I'd say that's fair. I think it's time, given it was revealed in 2019 in a CGI trailer. We saw gameplay within the next 2 years. So again, I think it's time. Now, I view Ninja Theory as developing into the Naughty Dog of Xbox. And I know that's a bold statement, but I really think that's what they're going to be. And it's because of the energy and the attitude that they carry. When you hear Ninja Theory talk about their games, when you see the way they behave with their games, they are perfectionists. Not to say other developers aren't, but that seems to be their key personality trait to me. Much like I'd assimilate that personality trait with Naughty Dog. You look at the attention to detail that they have in their games, they are perfectionists. That is their defining trait, to the last detail. Anything minor is major to them. And I see that a lot with Ninja Theory. So while I would like to see this be a fall 2023 game when it comes to Hellblade 2, again, it's one of those things where we shall see, and I don't expect us to learn that through these dev diaries. But if they are confirming, we're going to hear more about this game, more about the studio in 2023. It sounds like they're ramping up for something, and we can expect at least a couple of updates. At the very minimum, when it comes to Hellblade 2, I would say, yeah, some gameplay should be on your bingo card, because that's a pretty much guarantee at this point as far as I am concerned. Now we move on to Bethesda exclusives. So we already know that Redfall and Starfield are exclusives, but in a statement to the FTC from Microsoft, it looks like there is a third exclusive Bethesda game. So let's read the quote from PureXbox.com, where Microsoft says, "The compliance reference to Microsoft's recent acquisition of ZeniMax, a set of gaming studios acquired in 2020, has no relevance to the current transaction. After that transaction closed, ZeniMax's first 2 new games were made exclusive to PlayStation for 1 year post-launch, being Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop. Xbox anticipates that 3 future titles, redacted, all of which are designed to be played primarily alone or in small groups, will be exclusive to Xbox and PCs." This obviously being Starfield, Redfall, but what's game number 3? Some people have said Indiana Jones, but reports have suggested that'll be multi-platform. So is it the next game from id? What could it be? I don't know. Quite frankly, there are so many other options out there, but it's very exciting to think about that there is another Bethesda game on the way. So keep your eyes peeled for any Bethesda rumors, because that will likely connect the dots. If I were to make a guess, I think it's going to be id's next game. I think that should be getting revealed within the next year or so. That would be my guess. And since id has that smaller multiplayer experience, typically, you have that battle mode in Doom Eternal that wasn't that great. You know, the highlight is clearly the campaign there. So I think that would fit the description here that they said, which is primarily alone or in small groups. We'll see if that holds true, but that would personally be my guess. Now, on to Deathloop. And this one is hilarious because there is this clip here from a Streamily that was hosted by Jason Kelly, who is the voice actor of Colt in Deathloop, and listen to what he had to say.
Do you remember like the code names they were using for it or anything like that?
Yes, I can't say them because they're still sometimes hiring us under the code names.
Oh, interesting.
I can tell you nothing.
Did I just say something that I shouldn't have said?
This man's face after he dropped that, he's like, oh boy, I should not have said that. He's like, I can't take it back. And that is the problem with signed talent being on a live stream, because you can't say, oh, don't worry about it, Jason, we'll just edit it out. So whether it's DLC or a new game, many people are unsure. I feel like when we got the new ending and all that stuff for Deathloop with its Xbox release, that probably would have been a good time to have the new DLC at least talked about. Would have been time for a good pop. I think this is probably a sequel. It just makes sense. This game reviewed too stinking well to not get a sequel. Let's be real. Like, I may not have been a big fan of it, but this game reviewed really, really well. And I think that Bethesda has to look at that and think, well, we clearly got something here. Especially considering that it's been confirmed that the universe of Deathloop and Dishonored are connected. So there's clearly room to explore something here. And if it means getting my Dishonored back, then I'll allow a little bit more Deathloop, but only a little bit. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's all of the Xbox rumors I got for you today. It is a crazy amount of them, but very excited for what this year holds, and I hope you are too. Let me know what you think of all these rumors and what we may see from Xbox in 2023 in the comments down below. Please fire away. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below, and a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.